Someone's in the kitchen with Zan Man. Hey everybody, welcome to Kingdom of Honor. And I just, I'm out here cooking at the same time I'm doing the show because, like usual, I had other shit going on. And I want to be able to actually eat supper at some point today. Um, I've had a grilled cheese sandwich is all I've had to eat all day today. So, welcome. I'm your host, Am and Shane with my good buddy, the Honorable Jeff. And Jeff, how the hell are you tonight, man?
What? What?
How the hell are
Sorry,
you? I fucking said. What the
I'm
fuck?
watching Blippy.
Come on, motherfucker!
You promised me you weren't going to do that again.
You're, you're watching Blippy?
Yeah, Arlo's watching Blippy, so I'm watching Blippy.
You do realize that I don't even know what the hell Blippy is, right? Is that,
God, you are so.
I'm assuming it's some kind of a YouTube bullshit.
Well, it started that way, and it
Okay.
started in a really weird way. It's a guy. He was an Air Force. He was in the Air Force, and he was a mechanic, and he did all. I guess I take that back. I'm not. I know he did some schooling in the Air Force, and he was an Air Force member. And when he got out of the Air Force, he decided to develop these shows that his nephew would like. So because he had like a psychology background and things like that, he studied color patterns and voice patterns and all this stuff and developed these videos for his nephew. Just for his nephew. That's all he wanted was to develop these for his nephew. And eventually they caught on to the point where this dude is worth more than I can ever possibly dream of. He makes more in a year than I'll make my entire lifetime.
Wow.
And it was just this guy who just wanted to make a few videos for his nephew, and now he's just this worldwide phenomenon to the point where my kid, who's 5, is going to be him for Halloween.
My 5-year-old pit bull just walked in the kitchen with me, walked up to the big, like half gallon or actually gallon jug of corn oil I had sitting on the floor, and licked the top of it till it fell over. That was pretty funny.
Did you say
So
corn oil?
canola oil.
Olive oil, dude. We're hippies now. We have to use olive oil.
Yeah, I buy both, but I had to buy I bought like a big gallon jug does I guess like save like 20 cents.
Yeah, fair enough. What are you making though? It's involving
I
canola oil.
I am making my favorite meal, which is fried pork chops breaded
Oh
with
my god.
crushed up Ritz crackers uh and then I'm making some fried potatoes to go with it.
You
So
know what? I have to, and you're gonna probably cringe at this because I did the first time I read about it too. But like Ritz crackers are great, breadcrumbs are great, but pork rinds. Using pork rinds for breading is amazing, considering I never would have thought of a pork rind as an edible food before.
I'd be willing to try it, but I would think that that kind of like aftertaste that goes on pork rinds
Nope,
would make it kind of a bit overwhelming to me.
it's not there when you deep fry it or when you use it as breading.
Oh, okay.
I've done it multiple times, and it's not there when it's used as breading, which is great because that was my big thing was you get that pork rind taste in the back of your mouth, and it's terrible, absolutely terrible. But it's
Right.
not there when you use it as breading, especially if you like coat it with eggs and things like that. And the nice thing about pork rinds, and the whole reason I found out about it was because I got on this keto kick where trying to lose weight and get my blood sugar down and everything. I thought, hey, no carbs, that's the way to go.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Um, so I was reading it, and that's a keto thing is pork rinds because there's no carbs. And the first time I tried it on fried chicken. I tried it on a few other recipes, and I was like, yeah, it's not gonna be good. And the first time I tasted it, I'm like, man, that's actually not half bad. And then after I've had it a few times now, that's my go-to. I use that over breadcrumbs. I use that over Ritz crackers. I use that over saltine crackers, over anything that would be used as a normal breading. That's what I use as pork rinds.
Interesting. Um, and I don't. It's you kind of said pork rinds like yeah, those are disgusting, and I don't mind pork rinds. Pork rinds. Have you ever gone to the and now we're just having a conversation about food, but
Right. It's like
have you ever gone to the OMC Steakhouse in West Duluth?
welcome to cooking with Kingdom of Honor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever gone
So
to? Elm
Yep,
Seafood
I've been there.
Steakhouse in West. Yeah, I mean they kind of have that as like your, like a lot of places will like set peanuts on the table for you to eat.
Mm.
That's what they kind of do for you. You get free pork rinds. Pork. I keep saying rinds. Pork rinds before you sit down and eat. So
Pardon the cough here. Um, it's not COVID, I promise.
I don't care. I'm 45 miles away from you, so I don't care if you have. I don't care. You're not gonna affect me. I mean, I do care if you get COVID, but I just you're coughing over the ear is not going to affect my life.
No, but it affects me just in my whole life.
I might go over there and knock you out, throw a mask on you, and rescue Arlo from your house. But
Wow, that's a little extreme. You coughed on the air. I'm coming over there to rescue everybody and throw a mask on your face.
well, it's been a long time since we've had an extreme makeover on TV, so we'll be an extreme health makeover with Shane and
On the
Jeff.
on the radio. On YouTube. Guys, pay attention. This is gonna happen at some point. And when he does, he better go live with it, because if not, it's a missed opportunity.
That would be that would something that was be doubly going viral. But
Wow. God, I forgot how bad your jokes are. We need to start doing this more than once a week again, so I can remember these bad jokes.
we did a show last night.
Yeah, and see, that's now we're over that whole. Oh, we got to catch up on 47 million things, because we kind of caught up on it last night.
And
So,
yet, we're just spending the first 6 minutes of the show
talking about cooking and pork rinds. Welcome to Kingdom of Honor, kids.
Yeah, I was actually thinking one day, last week that we need to get together and watch some wrestling one of these days again too. So.
Well, we have our Stallworth coming up in January, but
we do it. So yeah, it is only like 2 months now, isn't it?
But I also heard that there's a pay-per-view coming up in November, and I'm doing some reworking to my garage. So when I smoke the chicken this time, it's not going to be underdone, because I won't be doing it in 30-degree weather, trying to keep a 250-degree temperature on a smoker.
Yeah, and when you do it this time, I'll bring my own dressing with me, so I don't only have your crappy ranch to dip
Oh
in.
no, I've expanded over the year.
Okay.
I now have like 14 different kinds of mustard and 6 or 7 different kinds of barbecue sauce, and it's not just ranch in my family anymore.
Okay, good. Because you had like the big jar of ranch, then you had the small jar of ranch. They were both the same brand of ranch. It was kind of funny actually.
Well, the thing is my son's palate has developed over the year, and now it's not just he's not just eating macaroni and cheese and hot dogs or corn dogs anymore. Now every now and then he wants cereal, or he wants this or that. So as he's started making me buy more foods, it's made me think, hey, you know what? Maybe I should buy a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and so now we got tons of barbecue sauce, tons of mustard, tons of I can't say the K word, but we have that in my house as well.
We were talking about that possibly tonight we'd be talking about Takeover 31, and I didn't get a chance to actually watch all of it. I wanted to see, I know that you didn't watch this match, but so I just want to mention that, and I know you're not a big fan of one of the guys in this match, but I just want to tell you that Kishida versus Velveteen Dream was fucking awesome.
To be honest,
those guys, those Kishida kicking the crap out of Velveteen Dream put a smile on my face.
In his heel turn,
yeah,
because now he's trying to be a heel.
I don't even know if it's a heel turn, man.
I think like Velveteen Dream.
Or did you mean Velveteen, or did you mean Kishida?
Kishida.
Okay, I just see it as him being more aggressive. He was talking about like supporting his family and shit like that. I don't think it's really a heel turn, but maybe it is. But I just think it's him finally showing because how many years in NJPW did he beg to be given a shot at the heavyweight level?
But let's put it this way: he's a WWE talent. He's an aggressive Japanese wrestler. He's going to be portrayed as a heel.
Touche.
I mean, regardless of how you and I have been preaching for this just be you mentality for how long we've been doing the show? 5 years now?
Yep.
And then we go back to our show before that. We've been preaching at least 6 years now for this just be you mentality. So face versus face, I think it should all go away. Every now and then you need a guy who's just a pure baby face, like a Johnny Gargano,
Hmm.
because his heel run sucks. Or you get a guy who's a true heel, like a Tommaso Ciampa. But they become kind of tweeners over time because fans respect them and so on, kind of like Steve Austin did. Um, but ultimately, I think an aggressive Kuchida in a W or Kushida, Jesus Kuchida, Kushida in a WWE environment is going to be labeled as a heel simply because he's a foreigner who's aggressive in the WWE.
Fans, don't forget to stop by the store. Get in line because they go on sale on Friday morning. Your Kachita pets.
Kuchida pets. Good Lord, please don't make that
Please don't. Please don't. What?
thing. Please don't make that a thing. No, I mean in
I'm not the one
Japan.
who said Kachita. You are.
In Japan, I always respected him. I thought he was a decent wrestler. I thought he put on good shows. I got a little sick of the Back to the Future stuff, and that kind of turned me off of him. But ultimately, I've always respected the guy as a wrestler. And when I've seen him do his stuff in NXT, I've been fairly impressed, especially his stuff against Walter. I think that was what, the end of last year, or
I
was it
think so.
earlier this year?
Wait, did he? I can't remember. It might have been in January.
But regardless, it was, when that was when I kind of flipped the switch and I'm like, okay, I've always liked this guy, but I really like this guy. I really like this attitude from him and so on. So I was kind of all in on him. And Velveteen Dream really grew on me after I got past the showmanship part of him and saw how good of an in-ring talent this kid is. And I mean, he's still a kid. I think he's what, 22, 23 years old.
He's got to be older than that now. He's probably pushing 25 now.
Regardless, he's still essentially a kid. Because it wasn't, and I could be wrong, but I could have swore that NXT was really his first run at wrestling.
Speaking of young people, and I know that you've been touting this guy for a year now, so I just, if not a little bit longer, but just so because you mentioned age, I also wanted to say that I found out, and maybe you knew this and maybe you didn't, but that even though he's been wrestling for 10 years now, Gabriel Kidd's only like 24 years old.
Bring it here, Arlo. I'll help.
Because
Yeah, and he's a young kid, and he when we saw him first started seeing, what do you need? What do you need? I don't know how to put him on. Like this? Sorry for this interlude. All right, bring me the instructions and I'll help you.
it's adorable that your 5-year-old son is teaching you how to put Legos together. That's just fantastic.
He brings me this pile of Legos. He goes, "Make it work." What? How? I don't know how.
You've got 40 years on him, and he's 41 years on him, and he's teaching you how to put Legos together. That's just
Well,
awesome.
have you seen Lego sets nowadays? My God.
I don't care. It's still funny. Go
All
Jeff.
right, fair enough. Fair
Go,
enough.
I mean, go Khaleesi. Go.
So,
I just called my dog by your name. I said go Jeff, and I was talking to you.
fair enough. I understand that completely.
Okay.
Dude, I don't know what you
All men
want.
are dogs anyway, right?
Fair enough. Anyway, where was I? Gabriel Kidd. He
Move, Rhaegar.
and we kind of saw him. Well, I kind of saw him come to his own during the whole Defiant era. And I felt like he was one of those guys that has a ton of potential and eventually is going to be a massive star. And he's kind of proven that.
Yes, he is, and I'm really enjoying him. We talked about this before, but with the way his style has kind of developed and the way he's leaned his body out and reshaped it, I really and the way that he's just patterning himself after his teacher, I think it's fun that we're going to see like a second version of Sonata now. I mean, not Sonata, but Shibata.
Yeah. Yeah, and well worth it.
I don't, I don't, I'm not, the way that they're booking Sonata, I don't know that I want to see a second version of Sonata.
Well, yeah, I'm a little disappointed, but we still have hope that my theory and what I'm thinking is going to happen is actually going to happen. So I am okay with kind of the way they're booking him at this point.
Well, as I told you last night, I finished night 6. So the next time I see Sonata, he'll be facing the double champion one on one. So there's also a possibility that and that he beats the double champion.
And I promised I wasn't going to give you any spoilers, so I'm not telling you.
Right, and I don't want you to. I'm just
And
telling you where I'm at right now.
yeah, and I'm not even gonna talk about it. I'm not gonna think about it. I just really hope that that storyline that we came up with last week is actually something that holds true and comes to fruition.
Storyline you came up with.
What?
You
That
came
I
up with
came
it.
up with?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
would,
I didn't come up with it. You came up with it.
yeah, but you kind of piled on a little bit.
I suppose. I just don't want to take away your thunder. Is all I'm doing.
I don't care about Thunder. I work for a company that thinks that we're all people that should just give and give and give more and give lots more.
Not that you're bitter or anything.
No, I'm not. I actually like my company. I'm just a little frustrated. That's all.
Yeah, you have
Nothing
every right
major.
to be.
Nothing major.
No,
Dude, I have no clue how to work these fucking instructions. I'm
how you
looking at this book and it's,
how you work instructions as you read.
no. Have you ever put together a Lego set?
Well, yeah, when I was like
Okay,
8.
in the last 5, 10 years,
No.
they give you a picture, and the picture I have does not match what I need to do because I don't have the right things for the picture. There's more. There's more. I can't deal right now. Okay. Anyway, back to reality. No, I just
Reality. We're
love.
talking about wrestling. What the hell are you talking about? Reality.
Fair enough. Um, I've enjoyed this G1. I think this might be my favorite G1 that I've seen so far. I've
Oh,
really enjoyed everything about it.
well, it's not my
Eh,
favorite G1, but I have enjoyed it. I do have to say that night 6 I watched all the rest of it, and I'm sitting thinking to myself, do I even though I said I was going to watch all the matches in the G1, and I may not do that now that I'm so far behind, but do I really want to watch um, Goto versus Naito?
yes.
And it turned out to be a good match, but
Um,
it was just something I thought like, you know, Goto versus Naito was not something that really appeals to me. I'm not sure
see,
why. I'm
in,
really not sure why, because I am a fan of both guys. It's just, but it was just something where I looked at that and I'm like, that just does not sound good to me.
in years past, I would have been right there with you. And but this year is a little bit different, where I'm accepting the fact that I'm just going to be behind because I'm waiting for the English commentary, even though I've watched, a lot of. I watched ahead with the Japanese commentary and watched the matches because I was so into it.
Hmm.
But I think maybe the fact that there's so little other wrestling that I'm watching, I peek into AEW. I watch a decent match on WWE or NXT. But like this time last year, I was into Defiant. I was into MLW, watching those every week. AEW had just started up, so we were well, not during the G1, I guess. AEW hadn't started up yet, but there was just so much other wrestling that I was watching. Where this year, I'm kind of really only focused on the G1 and only watching the G1, and I'm actually enjoying the fact that I'm getting to see every single match,
Yeah,
and I'm
I'm sure
okay.
you would.
And I'm okay with being behind on it. Where before I wanted to make sure I had it all watched and I was up to date, and I'm okay with being behind.
Yeah, at the risk of pissing you off, I'm just because I've always cared about that in the past, right? Is
Right.
uh I'm just kind of like trying to decide like do I what do, and I'm probably much going to fall I think on this side, but I'm like looking like yeah I think I'll put aside watching Grey's Anatomy for now and just kind of focus on the G1.
I got one episode of each of well no. I have one episode of Flash, one episode of Batwoman, 2 episodes of Supergirl, and 4 episodes of DC of Legends, and then I'm done with the DC universe.
I really thought you were going to like explode like I've been asking you to watch the fucking Arrowverse and you're watching goddamn Grey's Anatomy.
I've gone through my look. I'm not gonna lie. I started watching the Arrowverse in what was it, May? So I'm a little impressed that in 5 months I've gotten through 5 different TV series, six
Yeah.
different TV series in order, watched all this stuff, and I'm sitting here thinking, oh, I'll never be able to watch all the seasons of Supernatural. I'm like, dude, I just literally did it by watching the entire Arrowverse.
Yeah, pretty much.
I've watched, when you think about it, I watched 10 seasons of Arrow and 6 seasons of Flash. That's more than Supernatural. And I always put off watching Arrow simply because there were too many seasons. I was too far behind. I'll never get to them. I don't know if it's the change in my, life from working from home and having more time. I don't know what it is, but I've gotten through this and I've enjoyed all of it. You can unplug that, Arlo.
You didn't fucking watch Green Arrow or Arrow because I told you how great it was and you didn't want to believe me.
No, it wasn't that. It was the fact that it was like 5 seasons in. By the time I really got to the point where I'm like, oh, I should really watch this. Hey, stop that. No, 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 no.
No?
It was not the kitty. I watched you do it. Yeah, no,
No, I shouldn't do that.
don't do that. Arlo, don't make me come over there. Jesus, that's the first time I've said that to him.
It's about time, I suppose.
But I can I go back to when he was like 3 and 4, and he would
Sure.
just sit there and watch TV and let me be me and do my thing. Today I'm in the middle of a presentation, talking to people that I don't normally talk to, and he's handing me Legos saying, "Please pull this apart." And here I am while I'm giving this presentation on camera, pulling apart Legos. Finally, the broker just laughed. One of the people I was talking to just laughed, and he goes, "I get it, man. I definitely get it."
That's funny. That's really funny. Meanwhile, like I said, I told you earlier, but I had a meeting with my director today, so I made sure I brought Khaleesi and Rhaegar out to the kennel beforehand, so they were out there playing and not behind me playing. And then 5 minutes into talking with her, it starts pouring and hailing at my house,
Yeah, I had that today
and
too.
I'm like, oh my god, my dog's are, and she's like, well, go get them.
One thing I'm liking about this virtual environment is how understanding people are. Could you imagine if certain things happened a year ago and we were working at home, we'd be deemed as the most unprofessional people on the planet.
Right.
Now you have a kid, you're on camera and your kid pops his face in the background because he's digging some ice cream out of the fridge, and people not only just accept it, they go, "That was the best thing I've seen today."
Yeah, and like I told my boss today, I'm that I'm a trainer. I
Right.
told my boss, I think the fact that I'm a trainer and I'm working from home and I've got my dogs, need to go out or playing in the background. I think it kind of makes them feel like, oh, like he's a real person. He's got a
Right.
real family. He's got a real home. He's the same as me. So
Well, and the nice thing about working, like I'm going to be the first person on the planet to say I absolutely love working from home, and I was always that guy saying I could never do it. There's too much distractions and whatever. I'm more productive from home than I ever was in an office. Plain and simple. And the time that I've gotten with my 5-year-old by being at home is something that I've never had before with any of my, with my other kids and everything. And it's just been such a blessing. And the stories I get to share with people. Like I was doing, it wasn't that long ago when I started sharing with the people I talk to because they get it. My son just turned 5. Like it's been about a month ago now. He turned 5. About 2 months before he turned 5, he started to develop that I'm no longer a toddler attitude. So it was a lot of, hey, come in here. You need to pick this up, or just time for dinner. And I can't. I'm busy. And I'd just say back, you don't know what busy is till you worked a fourth quarter in insurance. And then on his birthday, I called him in had a nice little cupcake with a candle and everything. And I said, "Hey, it's time to come in. You need to eat." He goes, "Dad, I can't. It's fourth quarter." So, you know, to be able to have
That's
those
great.
moments, to be able to have those moments that I can not only share with people that understand it, but just the time I get with him has been so priceless. I'll never give it back. I never thought I'd say this ever, but thank God for this pandemic. Just,
I love it.
I'm just saying it. It's been a godsend for me.
Yeah, and when you've got like you said, you've got a company and you've got managers and people that understand what it's like, and that we all were kind of like forced into this situation. It makes it makes it even better. And the thing is, as wrestling fans, we were kind of deprived for a while of for even our like our big release, right?
Right.
We had AEW every week, and if you liked them, you had WWE every week, and there was people that had you know Impact was lucky enough to have taped some stuff like right before everything closed down, so there was Impact to watch. But a lot of the case was that you just didn't have, we didn't have NJPW for, it felt like ever. We didn't have,
I think it was like
ROH.
13 weeks or something like that. We didn't have NJPW.
Yeah, we didn't have ROH until like the last week of February or whatever it
Right.
was. So and now we barely have ROH back. They taped a series of shows to crown their first pure champion in I don't know, what is it, like 17 years, something. No, it can't be 17, but 14 years I think it is. But then they shut down too, really, again, because they haven't had any actual shows since then.
Well,
So
and the other thing too is now with the increase in because let's face it, as a country, we opened up too soon.
you think?
Straight up, we opened up too soon, and now we've got the second wave
Yeah.
of.
In related news, Donald Trump took off his mask too soon yesterday. Sorry, go ahead.
I, I don't know what to follow that with. Uh, I just I'm lost, but no. Um, uh, I mean, we really, as a country, kind of got back to things a little too soon. And you're starting to notice that in the NFL with the amount of games and Major League Baseball. With the amount of games that have been canceled
Rhaegar,
because
knock it off.
teams are coming down with it was the Tennessee Titans who faced the Minnesota Vikings in week 3. They had to cancel their game this week because 3 of the Titans players came down with COVID, so their game was canceled. That was and you're starting to see a lot more of that where people are canceling obligations because let's just face it, we came back to the shit too soon. Quite frankly, we came back to it too soon.
Well, yeah, no kidding. And I was speaking of football, I was astounded that all the major college leagues decided they were going to start play up.
Right?
When outbreaks are happening across college campuses, it's like, read the fucking room. I you know I and I do realize that I do realize that it affects kids. I do realize it affects, like, the athletes. I realize it affects the NFL teams. I realize it affects the colleges. It affects kids that are not part of those teams because they're a lot of the money that the football or basketball programs generate. I realize does go to also to non-athletic scholarships as well and that kind of thing. However, you're risking people's lives for this this fickle entertainment bullshit, and I think that's ridiculous.
Exactly. I agree with you fully on that. And if we look at the casualties of what this virus did, it killed Vince McMahon's dream. All he wanted was an alternative to the NFL. No, wait, Vince, not Vince. All Vince wants is money. Um, but regardless,
The
X,
XFL is not dead. The Rock bought it.
no, yeah, because The Rock bought it for what, nickels on the dollar?
What was it, like $6 million or something?
It was something ridiculous to buy an entire league. Like when I saw the amount The Rock bought it for, I'm like, damn, I wish I had that money. I would have bought that too. And now he's already announced that it's starting up again. It's going to start up again this year. So the XFL is not dead, which is really, really great because I felt like it was a great.
Rhaegar, enough.
I don't want to say alternative, but it was a great way to extend. If you're a football fan, now you get football from August all the way through, April instead of it ending in February. So I'm glad that The Rock bought it. I'm glad that The Rock is keeping it alive. I'm a fan of it, and the fact that he got it for literally nickels on the dollar. If he can turn that around, The Rock is going to be a multi-billionaire, not just off his WWE stuff and his movie stuff, but the fact that he bought into a league that could be at some point as popular as the NFL. It's mind blowing.
You think so? You think it'd be as popular as the NFL?
When I watched the games that I saw, the only real difference that I saw in the games was the fact that it was people you didn't really know. Where when you look at the NFL, you look at sports in general, 90% of it is you follow these kids from high school to college to through college into the draft. And, in baseball, you follow them through the minors and so on. In, the NBA, hockey, NFL, you follow them from college to sports. So you get to know these kids. You get to know who they are and what they're worth. Eventually, I could really see it becoming an alternative where people are like, you know what? I'm not going to play in the NFL. I'm going to go to the XFL. And eventually you're going to get those name brands and those names in the XFL like you have in the NFL, which is just going to make it more and more popular. Eventually, what we want to see as sports fans is talented players be talented. And if you can get the more of those talented players that aren't viewed as third and fourth string players in the NFL, they're viewed as, hey, that guy could have been a starter in the NFL, and now he's in the XFL. It's just going to take time to get there.
Okay, I can see your point. I guess I honestly don't care that much about it because I'm not a football guy. But
No, get that.
and I guess it's the same kind of thing. Like, is Ring of Honor ever going to overtake WWE? Something like
Never,
that.
never. It's going to be an alternative. I'm never going to say the XFL is going to take over the NFL.
Okay. Overtake, not take over. Overtake.
Yeah, overtake. What?
You do realize that we've been talking. We've had our wrestling show going on for 40 minutes, and we've barely even mentioned the word pro wrestling. So.
Yeah, no, we talked about some wrestling at some point.
I'm kind of fascinated with what's going on in each of the blocks of the G1 Climax. So I want to get at least a little bit more wrestling content here before we sign off.
I still think
I love that Jay White. I love that Jay White. Is 3-0. I love and I'm just like puzzled that Yano's 3-0.
Are you ever puzzled that Yano is 3-0? Seriously, he's 3-0 every single year.
I don't think he's always 3-0.
But it's weird because Yano is that guy that is always in the G1. He's always in the New Japan Cup. He goes into matches against people you should never win. He should never win against. And the thing is maybe he should have won against them 10 years ago when he was a real pro wrestler. Now he's a comedy act. So for him to win these matches just doesn't make sense. But every single year you see him against people that it's like, really? You beat Naito? Really? You beat Sonata? It's just, it makes no sense every single year, but every year Yano is there.
He's beaten Sonata, Tanahashi, and Evil.
And so far this year, yeah.
And now Evil, who is, at least where I'm at, I mean, I realize I'm a few shows behind, but, Evil, who is the most recent former IWGP Heavyweight Champion, the second ever to be a double gold champion, is 1-2 in G1 Climax at a time where you would think that they're trying to build him up to be, to at least be a main event or an upper mid card caliber star. So I do realize they like to do this. They like to start guys off slow and have them build up. Like Tanahashi was 0-2, and then he got that sneak win over Juice, and I'm sure he'll end up with 10 points or something.
Well, look at Jay
You
White
know,
last year.
Jay Lester was
He's
0-3.
0-3, and he ended up
Um,
being in the finals and probably should have won it, but Kota beat him the last, very very end of that match. I mean,
but
Jay White probably should have won it. So
but then you do realize it's booked and not a real
yeah, I know.
sport, right? The way you said that
I
was just weird. Okay,
I
so
shut fuck off.
the but then you also have guys like that started 0-3 last year, like Sonata and ZSJ, that ended up with losing records. So I mean, it does go both ways. So you're welcome. You're welcome
And
for me
for you
saying that.
saying Zed, I just want to punch you in your liver.
Yeah, I can tell you if you would survive the next 5 minutes to punch anything.
Oh my god. No, I do like the way they're making Jay kind of come off as a dominant force, and I think they kind of need that with the hiatus he had, not just the hiatus that NJPW had, but we went, what, 3 months after they started wrestling again before Jay White showed up in in front of the Japanese crowd.
Yeah,
Um,
and he was on like one episode of NJPW Strong, so it was like one
right,
match in 5 months or whatever it was.
exactly. So, to get Jay White being this strong is kind of reinforcing the fact that he really is one of the pillars. He's become one of the pillars. And
He is, and I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I just thought did you really think that 6 shows into G1 that Tanahashi and Okada's combined record would have been 2-4?
Tanahashi, yes. I kind of saw, because they've been, the writing's been on the wall for a year ever since he lost the title to Jay White, what, almost 2 years ago. It's kind of been the writing on the wall that he's in his downward spiral. At this point, he's the guy that's going to be out there doing the late stages of Shawn Michaels and the 2005 version of Shawn Michaels, and where he's going to be the guy who's the good hand that's going to put over the upcoming talent. He's just gotten to that point in his career, so I believe that. Now Okada, with the way he has been pushed to the moon since 2014, a little shocked by that. Yeah.
Yeah, he did start 0-2 the year that was it the year that Naito won it though? So I mean, it's not. Oh no, the year Tanahashi won it. No, which year was it? It was 2 years ago, I think, right? So
Well,
so
no,
yeah,
because
the
the last
year
years
Tanahashi
he's
won it,
been
he started
dominant.
0-2 because he lost to somebody, then he lost to Jay White, and then he stopped doing the bubble bullshit. So
It seems like the last
or the
3
balloon
years
bullshit.
he's been in the finals every year of the New Japan Cup and G1. He just seems to always be in the finals,
He
and that's
does.
been
He
3 years going, at least 3 years.
Right, which is why I've got such bad John Cena syndrome with him, is he's always in the finals of the tournaments and he's always in the main event of Wrestle Kingdom.
Right, exactly. So that's why, this year with his creation of this whatever joke championship that Yano won,
Hmm.
actually kind of made sense that they were going more in a different direction with him to give other fresh faces the jump. Problem is, the other fresh faces really have not amounted to anything since their fresh face lost back to Naito. I mean, this was a perfect time. You pushed Evil, you got him in that position, and now they pulled it back, which I, they did it so much with Sonata. They've done it with other guys throughout the years where they push them straight as fast and as furious as they can, and then they pull back and make them lose a lot. They've done it. They did it multiple times with Naito. They did it with Sonata, and now they're doing it with Evil. And I just don't understand that. Once Evil got over that bubble, won the New Japan Cup, won the titles, he should not be kind of a joke at this point, which I almost feel like he has become.
I don't think he's a joke. I do think he's gonna have a surge and he's gonna end up with 10 or 12 points. So I do think he's gonna end up with a winning record this time around. I don't think Sonata's going to, but I think Evil will. And I'm
God, I still hope the Sonata scenario works out. That's like my whole booking dream.
I know. I think you're going to be wrong, and I think you're going to have to. I think you're going to have to, put yourself in a padded room and just slam yourself around a little bit to recover from being wrong.
Well, because they'll never pull that trigger and let the champion win. They just don't. When was the last time that happened? Tanahashi?
No, I think it was like 30 years ago. No,
Was it?
it might have been the first G1. I think it's only happened one time. So.
But regardless, that would be that interesting twist that is kind of needed. It's not something anyone expects because it never happens. And why would your best wrestler on the planet, who you put all your eggs in their basket, you made them champion, why would they not be the ones to win a tournament when you put them in the tournament? And the fact that it hasn't happened for decades at this point would be such a welcome change that I think it would be a great thing. It would be a great thing for wrestling. But whatever. So
Keiji Muto and the Great Sasaki have both won the G1 Climax as the IWGP Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah, it's time for another one. And I'm already upset that they took the belts off Evil and put them back on Naito. So let's make something good out of that happen.
Oh, not the Great Sasaki, Kensuke Sasaki. My mistake.
Well, and how many years was Okada in the finals to make that happen and never did?
Lots.
Yeah, exactly. So it's time to pull the trigger.
Yeah, because the last. So I think the last time it happened was, we're talking
25 years ago.
Well, 20 years ago. Yeah, so it's 20-year anniversary. Might as well let's do it.
Yeah, I agree. Let's do it, because then I can finally come right on a fantasy booking scenario that I think would be great, and they never pull the trigger.
Did you know that Hiroyoshi Tenzan has won the G1 Climax 3 times?
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Guess who you're not going to be shocked by this, but guess who the record holder for the most is?
Who?
And he actually won it 4 times in a row once and 3 times in a row a second time.
Okay, now I'm curious. Who?
Antonio Inoki.
Okay, yeah, not surprised.
That's what I said. That's what I said. You're not going to be shocked by it.
Considering he's the greatest Japanese wrestler of all time.
He's the biggest Japanese wrestling name of all time. If you actually watch him work, he's not a great wrestler.
No. He's the Hulk Hogan of NJPW. He's a great wrestler, but developed a niche and stuck with that and became the biggest name. He's Hulk Hogan of NJPW.
Sure.
If you watch AEW, or I'm not AEW, I'm sorry, AWA stuff with Hulk Hogan, and even WWF or WWF stuff before he got turned into the Hulkster, and he was eating vitamins, saying his prayers, and all that crap, he was a damn good wrestler.
Oh, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just disagreeing that Antonio Inoki is.
Inoki had the same,
because I've watched a lot of his matches, and a lot of them are just boring as shit.
But did you watch his matches after he became the champ and the face of the company, or did you watch the stuff leading up to that?
After he became the champ and the face of the company.
Exactly. The stuff leading up to that was a lot like Hogan's stuff was, where Hogan was a damn good wrestler until he became the face of the company, and then it was just leg drop city and his stupid comebacks. Same thing with Cena. I mean, I would argue that Cena has had some pretty decent matches after he became the face of the company, but before he became the face of the company, he was out there putting on some damn good matches, and then he got into his niche. He got into his 5 moves of doom, as they call it. He got into his, just going out there to please the crowd, not actually put on great performances.
Well, I'll tell you this much. I will take Yuji Nagata, Tatsumi Fujinami, Kazuchika Okada, and Hiroshi Tanahashi over, and even Naito over Antonio Inoki. So
and Ospreay
and Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm just naming guys that have won have been the NJPW World Heavyweight Champion. You know,
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, and I agree because it's the same way I would take Savage, Shawn Michaels, and Bret Hart over Hogan any day of the week.
sure.
It's just they were able to continue their great performances after they became the champs. But Inoki is a lot like Hulk Hogan was, where they became the champ, they became the propaganda machine, and they just left behind all the greatness that they could actually do to be that champion.
I'm not sure I could take Shawn Michaels over Hulk Hogan as, but
As
it's.
an in-ring performer, any day of the week.
I thought you were just talking about as a wrestler in general.
No, 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 no. And a lot of that's because I remember Hulk before he became uh, the caricature Hulk.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just like look at like Shawn Michaels' attitude and the fact that he had basically no offense and things like that, and I'm like, really, you're gonna take him over Hogan? So,
It was more his selling and storytelling that I bought into. He was a perfect babyface. A perfect babyface. His heel run was entertaining, but as a babyface in that 94, 95, 96 run, I don't know if there's anyone better at selling. Maybe, I mean, I put other guys kind of on that level that really never got the fame, like a Dolph Ziggler. But ultimately, I don't know that there was anybody better at selling during that time than Shawn Michaels.
and yet his match against Hulk Hogan, his one-on-one match, he's criticized so much for the way he sold in that match, and
Because
and that's just goddamn ridiculous. That was a
oh,
fantastic match because of what Shawn Michaels did.
oh,
So,
it made me laugh hysterically, even though I know it was a farce and it was way over the top selling. I loved it too, just because it was maybe something you didn't expect.
but what was he supposed to do against a guy that's 800 years old that he's asked to put over? He had to make him look great. So.
And a guy that's 800 years old that he's asked to put over, but also is not allowed to get his win back like he was promised.
Not letting his win back, and the guy could barely move. I mean, what
Right.
the hell was he supposed to do? So,
I don't know. Him jumping up 3 feet off the top of those turnbuckles whenever he got kicked is still one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life. It was so amazing. So amazing.
yeah, I mean that is a very underrated show in general. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed that match, and I really enjoyed the Cena versus Jericho match on that show too. So,
Well, I think that was was that Jericho's second run in the company?
I think that was the end of his first because the next night
Okay.
he had that rematch where if he lost, then he had to leave the company, and then he was kind of like just wheeled out in a garbage truck. So,
Yeah, and he went on tour with his band for like 2 years and then came back.
right.
So yeah, you're right. But I Jericho, it's hard to call the GOAT underrated, but I swear to God, from like '96 to probably about 2002, he might have been the most underrated wrestler on the planet, just because he was so good at what he did. And now you look back and he's the GOAT. I mean, there's no question.
I
But
think a lot of people knew how great he was. How great he was, but I think that he just didn't get the push when he needed it. And then when he did get the push, he looked like he was a deer in headlights, a lot like Naito did the first time around.
oh, I
When
don't
he was
know.
getting title shots. So,
After he beat Triple H that night on Raw to win the championship, and then got it turned over, I think they missed a huge opportunity.
oh, they did. But I'm talking about if you look at his eyes and you look at what was going on when after he was the double champion. He looked like he was in over his head at that point.
But was that so much him, or was it the fact that they focused more on a Triple H versus Stephanie storyline instead of Jericho doing what he did and becoming great?
I'm talking even his matches at the Royal Rumble and No Way Out. He still looked like he was in over his head before they even started the Stephanie stuff.
All right, fair enough.
In my opinion, and I felt that way at the time, and I'm I guess if I went back and watched it now, I could see if I'm right. But I mean, that's how I felt at the time too. It was just like, they put this kid in over his head.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying it was a bad thing because I think that experience made him great in the future. But I do think at that time he just wasn't ready.
he still has my three favorite moments of all time in wrestling. The when he palmed The Rock when The Rock was talking to him, and he threw his hand up and
Hmm.
palmed The Rock.
That was his
Uh,
debut, right?
no, that was when he his turn right before he won the double championship.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Because he was part of Team WWF, and he and The Rock were friends, and they started to develop a little dissension. And his debut, he had that great promo that really showed he could stand toe to toe with The Rock. But it was like 3 years later when he really got the respect. And there was a moment when they're in the ring and The Rock is talking to him in true Rock form, and he just pushed his hand in The Rock's face like, "Shut the fuck up, it's my turn." That was one of the greatest oh shit moments I've ever had in my life. Like, what the fuck is Rock gonna do? That when he threw Jericho, or when he threw Shawn Michaels to the Jericho-tron and turned
Oh
heel on
yeah.
Shawn
That
Michaels.
was amazing. Yep.
And the other, my third all-time favorite moment of ever, was after he beat Juventud Guerrero in the ring. And he just looked in the camera and he goes, "I killed Hoovy. I killed him. I killed Hoovy." You look at the Man of 1,004 moves and him reading off that stuff, and you look at all the great stuff he did in WCW. My absolute favorite moment was when he looked in the camera and goes, "I killed Hoovy. I killed him. I killed Hoovy."
I do think speaking of The Rock, that he is part of The Rock's greatest time, where he ever said, "It doesn't matter what your name is," you
Right.
know, and
Yep.
and the Rock doing that on Jericho's debut like helped make him in that company too.
Well, and the fact that even after that moment, when most people, when you look at the times he's used that line,
Hmm.
and most people freeze, and they're just like, he did it to Billy Gunn, that ruined Billy Gunn's career. That one moment ruined Billy Gunn's career. So when he did that and it ruined so many people, the fact that Jericho was actually able to overcome that and still put on a great promo that went toe to toe with The Rock just really made him that main event guy. And I just think it took too long to get him to that main event from that moment.
Yeah, I think so too.
And there's so many other Jericho moments. I can go through them, forever. His feud with China, when he was when like before he beat her for the Intercontinental title, and he had her in that room and beat her fingers with a hammer. Just a great heel moment. And the fact that those two became friends after that was it was astounding. It was amazing to watch. There's been so many great Jericho moments throughout the years that it's really hard to pick my top 10, but if I had to say my top 3, easily those 3 that I told you, and those 3 might be my favorite moments of all time in wrestling.
I really enjoyed his match against Isaiah Cassidy on
Yes.
this past week on AEW Dynamite, and just the I think I am not alone in saying that I hated the Judas effect when it first started. You know, but I mean the way that he started to use that as just kind of a surprise thing that knocks people out, and then the way that Cassidy like pretty much did what he said he was going to do. He made Jericho his bitch, but just that one move, and then he turns the tide and beats Cassidy. It was brilliantly booked. It was brilliantly worked by both guys. I loved that match on Wednesday night.
Jericho, and I'm the same with you. I thought that was terrible. I thought that move was a horrible, it didn't make sense to me. It was like, why would you go away from even the code breaker? I thought was a better finisher. So I'm right there with you going, why? But I've seen him pull it off in certain situations where I'm like, okay, that's believable. That is believable. That would knock someone the fuck out. And I felt like as with his match against Cassidy last week was one of those moments.
Yeah, and it was it was absolutely outstanding. I really enjoyed that. You told me to watch Dynamite this past week, and I did enjoy it, but I did not think it was anywhere near as good as the week before. So,
I feel like they might be starting to get their groove back. I just think there's certain things that are almost too long of storylines. Like this Adam Page, Kenny Omega who's going to turn heel bullshit has now been going on for over a year. And it's time now to either culminate the storyline or speed it up at least, because it feels like they've really kind of taken a step backwards to now it's no longer this professional jealousy or whatever. It's become straight up jealousy, where Paige in the match with Omega, and they were talking about the tournament, and Paige felt slighted, like, why should Omega get a shot in that tournament and I don't? So he just walks off. I just felt like we're beyond that point with this feud. We should not be going back to these little childish storytelling ideas, and should actually be moving this feud along.
Yeah, and I think they're going to. Looking at the tournament that's coming up, I really expect in the finals it's going to be Page versus Omega, and to determine who's going to be the next number one contender for Moxley after Full Gear is over. I just don't know how they're going to get to who the world title challenger is at Full Gear.
They're not. From my understanding, when Archer tested COVID positive, they kind of nixed any kind of title shot at Full Gear, and they're going to go a pay-per-view without it.
Well, Full Gear's in November. Why would they do that?
I don't know. Why do they do anything?
I mean, they couldn't. They certainly could be setting up a rematch between Eddie Kingston and John Moxley for there, because that feud's still going on right now.
And that's a damn good feud.
It is.
Eddie Kingston, for a guy that I had no clue existed up until 4 years ago, is an amazing performer.
He isn't he though?
And my first taste of him was as the leader of LAX, or the OGs in
Yeah,
Impact.
where he was just called King. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't really get him. And then I saw him a few times on what was that? What was that one-off show that we started watching where Austin Theory made his
Evolve.
debut? Evolve. We started watching him on Evolve, and what he was doing on there, and I'm like, okay, this guy's actually a decent in-ring guy too. He's not just a good talker; he's a good in-ring guy too. And then now seeing him on AEW, and we saw him for a while on NWA. I'm a fan of this guy's. I'm really a fan of Eddie Kingston. I think he is one of those guys that, I mean, what is he? He's got to be in his mid-30s, mid to late 30s. How did we not know about him 10 years ago with how good he is, not only on the mic, but in the ring?
Because we didn't follow Chikara. and he and he
Fair
and,
enough.
and Chikara's where he came up, and he earned his stripes, and that's where he was a part apparently like one of the greatest storylines in the history of pro wrestling in Chikara. So at some point when we have
Whatever.
free times, we should always get the Chikara streaming service and go back and watch all that stuff. But
Yeah, and
because we have free time all the time, right?
yeah, it's just added. Well, cat, oh my God, my cat is psycho.
You know,
Arlo,
I,
can you
I,
pick up that cord so the cat doesn't eat it?
and I'm looking at this. I saw something that
Thank
somebody
you.
I saw Imp post something, and I'm kind of like looking this up, and I'm like, and you know what? I do apologize. If the average wrestling fan knows who this guy is, but I'm looking and I'm like, wait a minute. The leader of Retribution is Mustafa Ali. Who the fuck is Mustafa Ali?
Oh my God. Seriously, I was actually going to bring that up. Um, he, the fact, first of all, they went back to calling him Mustafa Ali, which is amazing because he's been Ali on WWF for like the last 3 years since he left 205.
Okay.
He was an amazing cruiserweight on 205. They brought him up to the main roster because he was so good on 205, and he made an immediate impact on SmackDown. Because of
Okay.
course, as we've known throughout years, SmackDown's where the wrestlers live.
Right.
Raw's where the storytellers and bullshit lives.
So
But
he must come to the SmackDown around this time, and I stopped watching WWE.
probably, I think it might have been a little bit after that, about a year after that.
Okay.
But he really developed kind of a name for himself on SmackDown, and then he just went nowhere. Literally nowhere. He got buried. He was pushed to the back of storylines. He was kind of in the middle of nothing for years. I think the only thing that I feel like could have pushed Retribution, because I don't like this Retribution storyline. I've as much as I dislike the WWE product and the way they handle things, I still keep tabs on it. I still watch decent matches when I hear about them, things like that. This Retribution storyline has angered me to a point that I haven't been angered in a long time, because they're trying to make them an NWO outsider organization that's coming in to give payback to the WWF. But they're just showing up on Raw and beating people up with no explanation. How they got there, why they're there. In the past, eventually storylines kind of came out to where Eric Bischoff was the one funding the NWO. Shane McMahon was the one funding the alliance, was the alliance eventually after WCW and all that stuff. But there was no explanation. They would just show up, they'd beat up people, they'd tear apart rings, they'd do whatever they could to have. And they took one of my favorite wrestlers in wrestling with the worst name ever, Dominik Dijakovic, um, and made him into this horrible character wearing a face mask that made no sense at all. The only thing at this point that could have saved it was a guy of Mustafa Ali's talent. And I really think Retribution could become a thing because of that, because of Mustafa Ali's involvement. And you don't know the guy. You've been out for what, 4 years now?
About 3-ish, but and now that I'm thinking about, like, now I'm kind of like thinking about, is he the guy that people were like raving about, and people were they saying he was going to be the guy to challenge Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania last year, and then he got hurt and Kofi Kingston took his spot?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep. He
okay.
was.
I never, and I might have seen him on 205 Live, but I honestly cannot remember ever seeing him wrestle before. So,
Well, it was Elimination Chamber. It was supposed to be Mustafa Ali,
yep,
and he got hurt. So Kofi kind of jumped in and got that spot and just blew everybody's doors off. And
as he does.
yeah, because he is really, really good, and another one of those guys that's been really underrated throughout the years. But
And honestly should be the poster child for being held down because you're not the right color. If you ask me, that's my opinion. So
I don't know so much if it's that. I think he got his push,
okay,
but
he was both the wrong color and the wrong size. Is that better?
no, because I
Okay,
feel like he got his push, but he pissed off the wrong guy at the wrong time. A
Randy
lot,
Orton,
yes, a lot like
Kennedy.
uh, Ken Kennedy, who did you pissed off the wrong guy at the wrong time, and Vince loved that guy, so you either got fired or you got buried, one or the other. The fact that Kofi was able to rise up the way that he did just shows the kind of talent this guy really does have. But let's face it, you piss off Randy Orton from 2007 to 2011, your career in the WWF is buried. Plain and simple. He was the guy during that 5-year span. And anybody that pissed off Randy and Randy ran to the boss just got buried.
That's fair.
Kennedy, a perfect example. Kofi, Kofi's problem was the fact that he tried to do this boom drop from the top of a stage on an unprotected Randy Orton, which could have taken the money out of WWF at the time. Because you want to say John Cena was the golden child during that time. If it hadn't been for Randy Orton, there would not have been a John Cena during that time. I know John Cena rose to prominence mainly in his feud with Edge and other people and everything he did, but ultimately during that time, had there not been legacy Randy Orton, had there not been that badass Randy Orton to oppose the superhero John Cena, I really don't think that the WWF would have even survived during that time.
Reading through the names of the members of Retribution is like
It
looking at
hurts.
like looking at a list of like bosses in a video game.
Yep, it hurts.
Mace, Reckoning,
T-
Retaliation, Slapjack, and Dijakovic is T-Bar.
it's like, how do you take one of the
T-Bar.
how do you we remember, was it Ring of Honor he was in before?
Did they like take the spin the wheel, make a deal wheel we talked about last night, and they just put names on it and just
I
decided
don't
to
know.
spin it to find out who's going to be who?
It's brutal. I mean, you've got Mia Yim, who you and I were watching the old Ring of Honors, and we saw Mia Yim as a kind of a caddy, and then of course her evolution through the women's division. She's part of that.
She's Reckoning.
Yeah. And the fact that she actually beat down her real life boyfriend Keith Lee makes no sense at all. None at all. And then you've got Dijakovic, who I loved him before the NXT, but his NXT run and his feud with Keith Lee and his whatever it was, Fear the Eyes or whatever his little gimmick was amazing to watch, and to see him as this T-Pain or T-Dog or whatever the fuck he is
T-Bar.
now.
T-Bar.
It's so annoying to see a talent like that wasted the way that he's being wasted. He should be a leader of an opposing Nexus type faction, but yet he's an understudy to Mustafa Ali, who, by the way, is great, and he'll be great because of this, and he'll bring them. But Dijakovic, the way that he was in NXT, should have been that guy that came out and said, "I'm bringing a new faction into this," and here they are. And then all of a sudden, you had Retribution beating everybody up.
Yeah, he really is a great. I mean, the unwieldy name aside, he is a great big man who can really wrestle, who can fly, and has great charisma. He really is a 5-tool guy.
He
So
has that. He has that Seth Rollins charisma. That charisma where no matter what he's doing, where he is, you have to keep your eyes on him because he's just that entertaining. He's like the lead singer of a band. You have to watch what they're doing because that's their job, and they've got that charisma and stage presence and everything. Everything about Dijakovic screams superstar, and the way they're treating him makes me want to cry.
but maybe he'll end up being end up being the breakout guy of the stable and still become a superstar. I can see it happen. I can see it happening.
He
Um,
should have been. He should have been the breakout guy even before the stable.
I agree. I'm
You
just
know,
saying. I'm just saying. It's possible that he'll still get there. Um, and I think it's interesting that two members of the stable were two members of the embassy too, Mia Yim and Dominik Dijakovic.
Yep, exactly. I thought that was kind of interesting too. Um, and before, now that we've kind of gone down that road, the main thing I wanted to talk about tonight was this Halloween Havoc and the insistence on nostalgia in wrestling. It now, like we talked about a little bit last night. For people that didn't listen to our show last night, you can go back and check it out on YouTube and our Patreon. But the fact that the WWF is so insistent on nostalgia blows me away. They run out the same 5 or 6 legends every couple of months. They bring back pay-per-views by name only and expect people to just go apeshit over them. And there's people that are over Halloween Havoc. But I mentioned it last night, I'm going to say it again. Without a pure match that belongs there, like a War Games, like a World War III, there's no reason to bring back that, or Elimination Chamber's another one. There's no reason to bring back that specific name for a pay-per-view other than to get a nostalgia pop from those of us that were around during the Attitude Era.
Yeah, and I can see where you're coming from with that. I mean, I don't mind that they're bringing it back, especially since it's only on NXT and they're just trying to find like different names for the takeover events. It's fine, but I do see where you're coming from with that.
If they
I
were doing it other than just a name, if they were doing it just a, here's a name for a pay-per-view, or a special show because it's not pay-per-views anymore, I'd be okay with it. But the fact that they're running up the nostalgia thing with it is what bothers me. They're expecting to get views just because it's called Halloween Havoc. Not because there's anything special, it's just another pay-per-view. But they're expecting it to run up all these views because they're bringing back Halloween Havoc. But what
Gotcha.
is Halloween Havoc other than an October pay-per-view that had pumpkins? Ultimately, what is it? It's not like a War Games where they had the, two rings in the cage. It's not like World War III where they had the three-ring battle royal. It's not Elimination Chamber with the, the namesake match. It's not TLC where they have the tables, ladders, and chairs match. It's just another pay-per-view like Great American Bash, like Starrcade, like any of these other ones that didn't have a signature match tied to it, that they're bringing it back just for name value alone, hoping to get the nostalgia pop.
Maybe. I mean, and that's probably true. But and though, even though it didn't have a signature match, a lot of times they did have a kind of a signature look with like the spooky stuff going on and things like that, which I thought was kind of fun.
Oh, I
And,
agree.
and honestly, I think I've always loved that name too. I mean, it was I if with if WWE had when they bought WCW had instituted Halloween Havoc as one of their major pay-per-views every year, just one of their pay-per-views every year, I would have been totally fine with it. I would have been totally down with it because it's just a great name and it's a great concept.
Well, I agree. And it's the same thing with Great American Bash and Starrcade. If they had incorporated those names into their, their yearly runs, they tried with Great American Bash and then it went away. And then it came back and then it went away. But if they had just incorporated those names back in 2001 when they bought WCW, I'd be a little more okay with it. But now, 20 years later, 19 years later, they're running this back out there saying, we're going to run Halloween Havoc. And literally, it just feels to me like another, we can't get our own stars over, so we're going to use names and stars of the past to get everything over and get pay-per-view buys.
And you're probably right, but it's not like it's limited to WWE either. I mean, it
No,
happens
no,
it
I agree.
happens in all forms of entertainment.
I agree.
It happens. You have these greatest hits albums for bands that haven't toured for years. You've got Step by Step came not Step by Step, but Full House came back. How many years after the original was canceled, they made Fuller House. We've gotten a new version of One Day at a Time. They're making a new Buffy for God's sake. It's just the nostalgia thing is all over entertainment. And speaking of which, I mentioned bands. Rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen. So.
Oh, please don't bring that up.
I had to, man.
No.
We should give him the 10 bell salute type deal.
Yeah, we should, but it still kind of hurts. That was my childhood. That's the whole reason I played guitar. That's the whole reason I got into rock music. That one still kind of stings a little bit.
And it's going to for a while. I totally
I
understand.
know. It's like it to me. It's a lot like when Eddie Guerrero passed. It's just one of those things that's hard to swallow because he was that childhood guy. He was that guy that I grew up on. He was that guy that I idolized. I remember watching MTV just to watch a Van Halen video to see what Eddie was doing. It's just that one stings, and probably will for a while.
I totally get it. I did not mean to bring you down. I just wanted to
No,
give
no,
you a
it's
little bit,
okay.
give you a little bit of
It's
condolences and tribute. You know what I mean?
I'm
So
all right. I'm always down, but I get it. I get it. And I just poured a little alcohol on the curb for Eddie.
as long as you didn't pour it in a glass, I'm happy. So
All right, fair enough.
okay.
That's a good point. Very good point.
All right. You want to start wrapping us up here, brother?
Not really, but I guess I can because we are what, an hour and 13 minutes. Oh wow! Lately, because we haven't been talking that much, these shows have been going an hour and a half. Now we talked a little bit last night, and now we're going to wrap it up in an hour and 15.
I'm starving, dude.
I don't care. I ate already. I got home at a decent time. Oh wait, I work at home. Never mind.
Well, I work at home too, but I had to go take care of my truck yet again. So
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, guys. Patreon. Our patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. It's still a thing. I mean, we haven't been doing as many shows as we want to do. We haven't been doing our exclusives and things, which, hopefully in January we'll get back to. And I think we will, because I really do miss doing some of the shows we did, some of the callbacks, and the especially our Desert Island series, which I've been kind of jonesing to do that AJ Styles one. We're gonna do it. We will eventually do it. Might be for a couple months, but keep in mind our Patreon is still a thing. Patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. It's the best way to support us. You go there, donate a little bit, listen to some of our archives all the way back to our very first shows when we were calling ourselves, what was it, the realest guys in the room? The
Yep.
realest guys on the radio. No, it was
Those guys on the radio. Yeah.
actually, it was before that when we were doing Excuse the Aggravation.
Gotcha.
So you get some old school shit on there, and we do.
And you got my original ECW reviews with my other partner Pen 15 on there too.
We don't talk about those. They're on there, but we don't talk about those.
Because you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
I'm just that jealous. That's all it is. Anyway, and then of
Of
course
his sexy voice or what?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Right.
and wow. But we've got some reviews. We've started a few different retro pay-per-views. We did some ECW, we did some Ring of Honor, and we're gonna pick that up again. We're gonna pick that up along with our pop culture stuff that we do as well. And that pop culture stuff, once we get rolling on again, you can listen to it right here on this YouTube channel, youtube.com/Kingdom of Honor. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell. We're also on, was it LOP Calvin? youtube.com/LOP Calvin. Do the same thing there. Hit the like button, subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and Shane will love you forever. And then, of course, go ahead and hit us up on our Twitter. I'm at Regi Co-op. He is at ZanmanLOP. And we use the hashtag KOH, so it's easier to find us.
And make sure you stay tuned to the other shows here on the LOP radio. That's all we've got. We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights. And Jeff is saying
goodbye.